Hey guys, we're Jim Live Sports here, back here with another video. So, I want to talk real quick about two things. The Ahmaud Arbery shooting that happened back on February 23rd of this year, which he was murdered by, I think it was Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael, father and son, while he was jogging in a neighborhood. And their reasoning for why they shot him, or why believe it was Greg, the father, shot him was because he looked like a suspect in a string of robberies that happened in the neighborhood, which um, goes into a category of assumptions for some reason. I don't know why. What I don't know what you're assuming for, but whenever somebody gets murdered in the African American community, there never seems to be a reason for why. It just happens to be the police look into it, they investigate it, then there's always something that just they couldn't gather all the facts and it's incomplete or things like that. It's always something inconsistent. It keeps happening. He's a young African American male, like jogging. So I'm not understanding why you would be assuming, or because he looks like the suspect, then you're just going to approach him. And then when you see in the video that he's trying to defend himself against two men who clearly have guns. Now the son, I believe, was in the truck, but the father was in a tussle with him, with Ahmaud, and then he, I believe, got shot twice. And you see him hitting the older man, and then you see the shotgun pointed at his midsection, and you got shot twice, I believe, and then you saw him ultimately fall to his death. So it was just a crazy thing to watch. It was pretty sad. Just I heard Steve Harvey talk about it too, and he says the reality is that black people are sick of it, and we are, because it's always assumptions as to why we're black men are shot. For some reason, it's either by cops or about an assuming older white male. It's just what it is. And what I get really sick and tired of is, what the white community loves to do is they love to talk about other things that really have nothing to do with the situation. Like, oh well, the majority of ways that black men die is from each other, or things like, they always want to put that in there, but that's not the point. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when it's a racially profiling situation and then a black man dies. For instance, there's one man, I believe his name was he was killed by the Indianapolis Police Department. I think his name was Sean Reed. Yes, his name was Sean Reed, or Sean Dedon. I think that was his social media name. But he was on Facebook Live. He was in a high speed chase from the cops. Then he hops out the car and starts running from the cops. And what's going to be the main headlines on the news is, this is all wrong. Why are you running from the cops? What did you do? That's always going to be the reason. But what they never seem to address straight on is, why were you shooting to kill? That's always my first question is, why are you shooting to kill? Because when you watch that video of Sean Reed getting murdered, and it was just terrible when you hear all the shots that were unloaded. It sounded like at least 12. There was at least 12 shots that you heard. And then it sounded like there was like either 3 or 4 more after that. It was just wow. So my thing is, why are you always shooting to kill when you could shoot to immobilize a person? Shoot him in the back of the leg, shoot him in, not trying to be, weird here, but shoot him in, one of the buttocks or something. Shoot them to where they can't run, or something where they have to fall over, but not like it's like a little flesh wound, something that they can heal from. I never understood what's your motive in shooting to kill. And to me, it's either you made an assumption that wasn't true, so you can get sued, and then that's a whole big scandal against your police department. So it's either you're trying to avoid that, or you either just you got officers with different motives. And I saw a different video by this one person on YouTube, and he said there's a whole lot of good cops out there, but one thing is, and somebody said this in the comments, and a lot of people actually did, was There probably are good cops out there, but what do those good cops do to the bad cops? You don't see them arresting those bad cops. You don't ever see them stopping the bad cop whenever they're doing something like putting their hands on someone, threatening somebody with a gun, pointing a gun at them. You never see them do anything about that. They always turn their heads or turn their backs and look away while they're doing things like this. I mean, last time I checked, the officers were, to protect citizens and to uphold the law, to protect the people, right? But it always seems like they're trying to enforce the power upon the people, when really you guys forget that you're just citizens just like us. Just because you wear a badge and you have a gun, that doesn't really mean anything. You don't hold power over people, really, if you think about it. You're here to you don't hold power over people. You're here to uphold the law and to protect the citizens. So whatever this little power struggle you got going on in your head, it's just, when us African Americans see it, it's annoying, because you always try to assert that power whenever we're in a little conversation or in a confrontation. And then you guys love to get violent and physical. You've seen it in many different videos on body cams and things like that. You guys just, it's like you fear. It's like fear. Like, what is there to fear about us? We're human just like everybody else. Like, this is what Steve Harvey's talking about. It's what other African Americans activists are talking about. Like, this fear is always driving you to get violent, and then you end up shooting and killing somebody. You know, Eric Garner, all those black men, and then you had Trayvon Martin, who got murdered often of an assumption by George Zimmerman. It's just many different things that have happened in the last 10 years that just don't make any sense, off of an assumption, or off of, we want to assert our power, or you were afraid. You have a gun, and most of us don't have guns that we're just carrying around. So you automatically were at a disadvantage in that point of view. And then off of that, cops can always get away with saying certain things too, as well, until it's investigated, which, in my opinion, departments really don't do a good job of investigating their officers, because guess what they get? A slap on the wrist, get transferred to a different department, and that doesn't even really go on their record. So it's just things like that, So, do I go around being afraid? No, but I'm always aware and cautious of those things. I'm, for some reason, I don't know if it's just us African Americans in general, but whenever we're driving, like, you can always see a cop from a mile away. I can always spot a cop. Even nowadays, cops, are kind of disguised as normal cars until you see the big antennas, when they're kind of up close. I can always see a cop car from a different car from a mile away. So it's those type of things, just the senses. But, I made this video to tell you guys, it's just, when white people always want to justify something or talk about the details that really, to me, are kind of told too much instead of the true facts. Think about this. You guys aren't the ones who walk around afraid of the police. You really don't, because you're not racially profiled, because the majority of the police look just like you. But when you're an African American male, you legitimately have a fear of, if I'm getting stuck by the police, what the hell is his motive today? Is he pissed off? Does he have a racial motive? Does he have a racial background? What is behind, what's the motive behind his actions today? What's my interaction going to be with this guy today? So, as I have one teacher in particular who I talk to, and she's talked about these things that, she's a white woman, and she's admitted that she doesn't have to worry about these things, because she's not African American. And I'm like, if people would think more like that, then I think a lot of these problems would be solved today, because everybody always wants to talk about the minute details that don't matter, like I've mentioned many times. It's not always why he was running or what he was running for. He's running away because he's afraid, because he doesn't want to die. And is it the right action to run? Probably not, but that's his first reaction. You want to know why? Because if he's back there and then all the officer has to do is say you're resisting, then they can put their hands on you. You see that way too many times as well, where they think you're resisting even though you're putting a whole bunch of force on one part of they're putting a whole bunch of force on one part of your body, so you're trying to move. So because could be putting their knee into your ribs or something, or they're putting a whole bunch of force on your neck or your head. You're like, ow, ow, like you're hurting me. So you're trying to move, and then they can just assault you, and then they can get away with it because they can say you're resisting. So, just guys think about that, you know, before you start saying, but you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. How about think about this part of the equation first, so Ahmaud Arbery, Sean Reed, and the thing about the Ahmaud Arbery shooting or the murder of him was back in February 23rd, and now they're thinking about moving this to a grand jury. So I don't know what the district attorney was thinking, or the state police, or any people like that, but it doesn't really help us now. It just makes you guys look a little desperate, or were you guys gathering evidence to put against them? I don't know, but it's kind of weird. I don't know what the Indianapolis police are going to do about this, but it always seems to go to a settlement to silence the families or things like that. But it is what it is. But thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. But I just don't understand why assumptions have to lead to the death of an African American male or African American in general. So it is what it is. Thank you guys for listening. Purple Channel Live Sports. And I'll see you guys in my next video.